But
When was that?
it started 5 minutes ago.
Go late.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the first ever breaking news edition of Soul to Skull we've ever had before. Right as I clicked end stream for the last one we just recorded, we got news that the Minnesota Vikings have traded for running back Cam Akers from the Los Angeles Rams for a swap of 2026 draft picks. What the draft picks are, I don't know yet, but let me find out. Maybe it's unspecified, actually.
Yeah, I think it is.
Maybe we'll find out in a little bit. But that is interesting.
But yeah, this will be very interesting because they have Madison there. I thought he was going to be the starter, and they're going to just go with him. But this throws a wrench in that. And then they got Ty Chandler there, who is decent in preseason, and this is a whole different game for them. I think that'll really help in the run game, though. I think that could really open that run game for them.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting some stats pulled up here. Then we can delve into this here. Obviously, if you guys are tuning in, if there's anyone here, obviously we have zero things prepared for this because we weren't prepared for something like this to happen. But we just finished the other one, and then then I threw that out there, and they said, let's fire up another one. And I said, all right, let's do it. So we did. So a little background, Cam Akers was drafted in the second round of the 2020 draft by the Rams. So that means he'll be in his last season under contract right now. Yeah. Of his rookie deal. So I'm getting some stuff pulled up, then we can feel free to talk about this.
I think the Vikings kind of lost faith in Alexander Madison as the lead back.
I mean, we just talked about he had, 29 rush yards last week?
Yeah, 28.
I'll pull up his game log. I just got him here. Against Tampa, he had 11 carries for 34 yards. And against the Eagles, he had 8 carries for 28 yards. His yards per game this season is 3.3 yards per rush. Or I meant yards per rush, not per game, but you know what I mean. So not what they were envisioning. I'll look up past seasons and see what we can find here.
Maybe Madison just thrives as being a change of pace back, not being the lead guy.
That could be.
Who knows? But that is interesting to pull the plug on Madison potentially being the starting running back 2 games into the season.
I don't know if this changes that. I honestly don't, because
it's still going to be a rotation.
I don't think Cam Akers is that good of a running back. I honestly don't like this move very much. It is you are only swapping late round picks, so it does not matter that much. However, I would have liked to see if Madison continues this and he's not averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry by the trade deadline. This would make more sense to me. But I just think pulling the. I don't think they're pulling the plug necessarily. This could also just be them saying, "Hey, Madison, step up your game." But Madison's was never going to be that running back that breaks all these flashy runs that Dalvin Cook would do. He's a guy that you want to get 3 to 4 yards a carry, and I don't think the Vikings have given up on him yet, but I would have liked to see them have a little more faith than basically bringing in a running back and telling him, "Hey, your spot's on the line now."
I guess I was trying to get more at they lost faith in terms of him being the lead back, being what Dalvin Cook was last year.
Yeah, which I think is kind of what the Vikings are really missing right here, is that running back that can take the pressure off of the receivers and have the defense creep up, and that they can just kind of run through, get those big rushing yards gains, take the pressure off Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, even Osborne, so they can get those deep balls and get the passing game into it more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of the trade.
Bigley, you finished with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'm actually going to say I'm in favor of this move, to be honest. He's on his rookie deal, so they're not going to be paying him a whole lot. He was a second-round pick, so I guess more than some rookies. But, either way, I don't really see a downside to this. Alexander Madison in his rookie season had 4.6 yards per carry, and then in 2020 he had 4.5. And since then he's dropped to 3.7, 3.8, and now 3.3 this season. In Cam Akers' career, he's had a career average of 4 yards per carry. So he had 4.3.
Injury concern questions are there as well. I believe he missed 2021.
Yep,
He
2021
was
season.
out for the season. I think it was probably an ACL. He didn't play a complete season last year. So injury concerns are there. However, I could see the Vikings just rotating 2 or 3 running backs now. I mean, you see teams like the 49ers have had huge success. A lot of teams in the NFL have had big success, not necessarily having a star running back, but having 2 to 3 guys that they just rotate carries and keep all those guys fresh, keep them healthy. And you do see that different kind of dynamic as Madison is more of a power back. Akers is more of a guy who can make a cut on that and that run in that outside zones, keeping the Vikings love. More of a shifty running back. And then Ty Chandler is a guy who can go in there, do the same thing. He's also a pass catcher. We saw him do a lot of that in college at Tennessee and North Carolina. So I think if the Vikings, I think that's kind of the Vikings' vision here right now, is kind of adding so that dynamic running back to the backfield, and hopefully we see them rotating these guys, and that's what I'd like to see out of them after this move.
Absolutely. I know saw stats here. In 2023, said 22 attempts for 29 yards, only 1.3 yards per carry. But I don't know. I can see that changing here when it comes to the Vikings, just basically how the schemes are running, and I can definitely see that going up. And last year, he had 188 attempts for 786 yards, 4.2 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns. So I think that 4.2 is definitely kind of where we kind of need or want it to be. And if he can do that around that 4 yards per carry, he'll definitely be a very good asset to the Vikings.
There's one other stat I'd like to bring up here. It's not always about rushing with running backs. I'm going to bring up the receiving aspect. This is what I found here. So far this season, Alexander Madison has had 3.5 yards per reception. His career, he's had 7.2, but overall this year, it has not been where he wants it to be. Cam Akers in his career, starting with his rookie season, it was 11.2, then it was 3.3 in 2021, but he also only had 3 receptions, so the sample size very, very limited. And then he had 9 yards per reception in 2022. So in his career, he's got 9.3. So I think maybe they can work him into the passing game as well as rushing, and that could be interesting if they do that too. Absolutely,
because if you have kind of Hawkinson kind of staying in the middle, you got Jefferson, Addison going deep, Osborne maybe staying in the middle. You get Cam Akers with the flats, and he gets ahead of steam. He's going to be mid yardage every time. It may not be like long yardage like Jefferson and Addison can be used for, but it could be like that chunk yardage that we kind of need.
Another thing to look at with the running backs, besides can they run the ball, can they catch the ball, can they block? That's the most important thing. Madison, I guess I haven't really paid too much attention to that. I know it's important, but I think Madison's a decent pass blocker.
Yep. And Vikings have put a lot of effort into that blocking. They didn't add anyone on the O-line. They extended C.J. Ham, brought in Josh Oliver, who was basically a 6th offensive lineman when he's out there who can catch passes. He's basically an eligible offensive lineman, best blocking tight end in the league last year. So the Vikings really are making that effort, and Madison is a solid pass blocker, as we've seen. He did get beat pretty bad either in the Bucs game or the Eagles game.
I think that was in the Eagles game. I think that was one of the fumbles.
Yeah. But yeah, so hopefully the run blocking can pick up here and add a guy like Akers, maybe some more getting the running backs involved in the pass game. You've seen the Vikings. Vikings love their screen passes to running backs. Screens can be tough, but they are kind of those high-risk, high-reward plays, and Cam Akers does add that aspect that Dalvin Cook was so good at last year, where he can just catch the ball and you just see that burst of speed and he gets downfield. I mean, we all remember the Colts game where he dragged 3 guys into the end zone on that 70-yard screen pass for the touchdown to basically tie the game up.
Yeah, Cam Akers has that ability to get into a second gear that's better than Madison, kind of the same level as Ty Chandler. Cam Akers, you mentioned, was a Ram. Kevin O'Connell was a Ram. That sort of connection could have been a key reason to why he's a Viking. Who knows? Who O'Connell was really for it. I would assume so because the trade would obviously happen.
Yeah, I think it's obviously we've seen Madison, and he is the running back number one on this team, but he's not a bell cow running back quite like Dalvin Cook really was. But with that said, they don't really have a clear-cut number two behind him either because they have Ty Chandler. But this season, Ty Chandler has had 4 carries, 0 yards, 3 receptions, 27 yards. So he's had, 7 touches this year, and that's it. I think they expected more out of Ty Chandler. So maybe this has to do with it. They put more workload on Madison because they thought it was going to be more of a committee, but turns out it's really not. And with Kene on the IR, he's going to be out the first 4 weeks of the season. I think this is something they had to do, and not saying, I mean, we've talked about it, but not saying that Cam Akers is going to take over and become the number one that gets every carry from now on. But I think they're going to split it up between Cam Akers and Alexander Madison pretty fairly, because I think I can say that Madison is the better rusher, but Cam Akers is the better receiving back, in my opinion, at least. So maybe they'll do some of that. But, I mean, when you just look at Ty Chandler and the depth behind Madison pre-Cam Akers here, there's just not a whole lot, and I think they expected there to be more. So maybe that was alarming.
I think his lack of touches and his lack of playing time also could have played into last week, the Vikings being down the whole game, and we have, like we said, Madison is a better pass blocker, so they might have just wanted. I think they wanted Madison in there more just pass blocking, so because the Vikings had to throw the ball, especially in that second half, a lot because they were losing. So I think that could have played into it, but I definitely see what you're thinking here.
Yeah, I do have one concern about this. I get they're from the Rams there, Kevin O'Connell's from there, whatever, but is there a little bit of bias that Kevin O'Connell thinks Cam Akers is better than he actually is and had high hopes for him over there, but is really just kind of a disappointment? There could be that could happen here. It's, you hate to say it, but could that be a little bit of bias on O'Connell's part that, yeah, he really wants him over here, but will he perform as high as Kevin O'Connell can hope for him?
That was kind of what we thought about Johnny Munt catching passes, though. I mean, he was never a pass catcher. I mean, he still doesn't a whole lot now, but
No.
I will say I like Johnny Munt. I'll openly say that.
Johnny Munt would always have a nice.
He called him the best backup tight end in the league. But
he always have a nice catch.
His role has slowed quite a bit just because of Josh Oliver.
I could be wrong on this, but I believe heading into when not Josh Oliver, when Johnny Munt signed with the Vikings, I think he only had like 3 career receptions.
Yep.
So they were able to work him into the passing game, even though we didn't think that would be possible. So maybe we thought that when he first signed, just to like counter Big Lou here, maybe Kevin O'Connell felt delusional in a way about Johnny, but looking at what he's done with him, maybe he can cook up something here with Cam Akers.
O'Connell feels he can utilize Akers better than what the Rams did when O'Connell left.
Mm-hmm. So like said, the Vikings had 9 rush attempts against the Eagles this week. I'll take a look at what they had against the Bucks. They were also down early though, so.
Yeah, the Bucks they definitely ran against the Bucks better, because I know Madison, I was actually kind of impressed against the Bucks with Madison's journey, because his yards after contact were probably 3, 4, 5 there in that range. Like, he would get hit, but he'd keep driving his feet and going through there. So I was actually impressed with him in that first game.
Yes. So the Vikings, like I said, this week they had 9 carries. The Eagles had 48. 28 of them were DeAndre Swift alone. And some of them are Jalen Hurts rushing, I know that, and scrambling like he does. But in week 1 against the Bucks, the Vikings had 17 carries and the Bucks had 33. So they obviously have not been running the ball like they were hoping. And maybe this will open an avenue where they can do that, get back to that. So it's not a one-dimensional offense.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Anyone else got any real thoughts on that?
No. Do we find out what picks he was traded for at all, or has that not been released?
I haven't, no. It just says late round picks, for now, at least.
But.
So, yeah. Obviously, if anyone's watching this, we were not planning on doing this stream today, but we figured we'd do a really quick one, right? Literally 1 second after we hit end stream on our last one is when we got the news. So quick fired up another one. So that's our thoughts on their trade for Cam Akers. Some of us here like it. Some are a bit questionable on it, but that is totally okay. So with that said, any last thoughts from anyone before we close this one down?
No.
Perfect. That is going to do it then. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, click that subscribe button down below. Hit the like button and drop a comment so we know that you did. We will see you guys maybe next week. I'm not going to get all into it again. We might see you guys next week for a Vikings recap game against the Chargers, but we might not. Again, check out the community tab, follow our Instagram and Twitter pages. If you don't know where they are in the channel description, and you should be good to go. Otherwise, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day, everybody. And as always, SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings.
You never know. We could be having another live stream in a minute.
We could. It won't be a Justin Jefferson trade, though, Big Lou.
I know.
All right. We'll see you guys.